Okay, so welcome to the next stage in our build. This turbo is a GTB 2256. It's been hybrided out to a 60 compressor wheel to give us more boost and therefore allow us to put more fuel into the car and get more power. Now, obviously, a lot of you guys on Vectras and Astras have probably gone down the hybrid route with the standard turbocharger. Now, the standard turbocharger is quite a good little piece of kit for what it is. You know, it spools nice and early, it delivers good power. You know, it can reliably deliver up to 200 brake horsepower with the other supporting mods and stuff, and sometimes even a little bit more. But if you want to push it really hard, then you know, that's about the limit, really. Now, you can have a hybrid of the original turbo, but the problem with that is that because obviously you're still using the standard turbine, it can be quite restrictive on the amount of gas flow that it allows out of the engine, and therefore you suffer with a lot of heat issues. You know, and obviously that limits power, and you know, you can get about sort of 240 brake horsepower using the standard fueling system. Maybe a little bit more if you start upgrading things like pumps and injectors and stuff like that, but then you're running way past what the turbocharger is capable even after it's been hybrided. Now, the benefit of using a turbocharger like this is that basically, believe it or not, the whole setup is actually cheaper than a hybrid of a standard turbo, and it can deliver potentially a lot more power. You know, the 60mm compressor wheel can deliver up to about 300 brake horsepower, maybe even a little bit more. You can obviously go with ball bearing turbos, the VKLR version. My issue with those is they're bloody expensive. You know, for a car which is probably worth a maximum of £1,000, I don't really want to start chucking 1,500 quid at turbo setups. You know, I'm quite happy to sort of throw a few hundred quid at something, but I'm not going to start throwing thousands of pounds at a car that's worth next to nothing. You know, I've done that in the past, and it always comes back to bite you. You know, when you eventually sell the car, you think, Christ Almighty, you know, I've sunk £7,000 into that car, and I'm selling it for 1,500 quid, which is just plain daft. Anyway, so back to where we are. I've already made a manifold to allow this to be fitted, which we'll cover in some detail another date. But just to give you some background information on this turbo. So this turbocharger I bought second hand for £60. I replaced the core of the turbo, which you can see just in there. Could you shine the light in there, that thing? Okay, so you can see the core of the turbo in there is brand new. I spent a reasonable amount of money on that. That was £150. That is basically the majority of the part of the turbo which is likely to be worn. And that basically gives us a very solid base to start from. Now, obviously this turbo is not designed to fit to the Vectra, so we had to fit an aftermarket oil drain kit. Now, with this turbo, it's really important when you mount it on the manifold that you get the right angling, because obviously the oil needs to come out of the bottom of this, run down at an angle along this pipe, and then obviously into the drain, which is in the block on this particular car. You know, some people have drilled into the sump and stuff like that. I'm not particularly keen on that. The top of the turbo has another union here, which allows us to run a braided hose up to this union. As you can see, there's a fair bit of adjustment, so we can adjust it this way, we can adjust it back this way, we can adjust it that way or that way. This is a little kit which wasn't too expensive, available from the internet, and obviously allows us to have a great deal of adjustment and movement. In here is the turbine, which is obviously what runs the compressor wheel to give us our boost. I had to make an aftermarket downpipe for that, which you can see here, made from various different pieces. You know, the welding's okay. It's not sexy TIG welding, but it is a MIG welder. You know, I MIG welded that, stainless. It is solid, it is strong. It's not sexy and pretty, but quite frankly, you can buy kits online with this kind of turbo, with the manifold already fitted. They'll give you a really sexy TIG welded downpipe, and they'll charge you the best part of £2,000 for it. You know, this wasn't anywhere near that. This particular section here, the sort of donut section, cost me £15. This piece here, which allows us to bolt the downpipe onto the turbo, was £20, and this stainless 2.75-inch pipe was £15. So as you can see, you know, we're building stuff which is capable of big power, but we're not spending thousands and thousands of pounds on it because it's blatantly silly, to be perfectly honest. Now, benefit of this turbo is it has a rather large compressor housing here, which doesn't restrict flow too much, unlike the standard hybridized version. The VNT system, which controls boost, is a little bit old-fashioned on these, so you're going to get your turbo is going to start delivering boost at about 2,200 RPM. By about 2,800 RPM, you will have full boost. This turbo and this setup will support 2.6 bar, which is nearly 40 psi, almost twice what the standard system can kick out. You know, even a hybridized standard turbo is only really safe for about 2 bar. So, and by that point, it's getting so hot that the power gains are quite minimal anyway. Okay, so this is the actuator. We've tested the actuator on this one, haven't needed to replace it because it was working really well. We've set up the VNT, which is the boost control, using a handheld Mightyvac, which also helped us to test this, which was working really well, so there's no need to replace that. We've got ourselves manifold gasket here for when we refit the manifold gasket, but certainly for the moment, this is as far as we've got. This downpipe will obviously be made into a complete exhaust system. What I'm planning to run is a 2.75 downpipe, which runs all the way back past the flexible exhaust mounting underneath the engine, and then goes into a nice clean stepped 2.5 exhaust, which I've already actually got on the car, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. I've got myself a nice little MIG welder, which means that I should be able to make it on the car. So that's it for now. We'll be back later on to show you the manifold.